You'll be pleased to know we've got a little break, and you've seen where all the little yummies are outside there. So do go and have some yummies. I think we're slightly just about 3 minutes ahead of schedule. So I will keep you back in here on the time, which is at 11:45. So plenty of time to network. Thank you.
Okay, all right. So thanks so much for coming back promptly after coffee and smoothies. So I hope you enjoyed those. So the eagle-eyed amongst you will have noted that I'm not Ronan Lyons. Ronan is far better looking than I am, but unfortunately Ronan can't be here today in person. He will be joining us online for the panel discussion. So this session is all around focusing on data capabilities, really, some of which we've developed, over the course of AIM, but we'll also have the opportunity to hear about sort of wider developments across the UK data landscape in the context of multiple long-term conditions. So I'd like to invite up to the front Chris Orton, Bruce Guthrie, and Pooja Miles. Please, if you could come and take a seat at the front. So the format really is we've got a series of fantastic presentations from some great colleagues, relatively short presentations. And then what we'll do is we'll have a panel discussion. So we're going to kick off with Chris, then move to Bruce, and then Pooja, and then Kathy will be joining us online. So I hope, Kathy, you're there as well. Are you there, Kathy? Can we check? Or maybe not, maybe a bit later on. And then we'll have, for the panel discussion, we'll have Ronan and Susan Mountain joining us. Susan, a PPI representative from AI Multiply. In terms of the discussions, you can start firing your questions through Slido straight away if you'd like. I'll be monitoring these on this iPad. But we'll also have the opportunity to kind of, we've got a roving mic and raise questions from the floor as well. So without further ado, I'm going to hand over to Chris, a wonderful colleague from SAIL. And Chris is going to talk us through the AIM data journey. So Chris, over to you, please.
Yeah, thank you ever so much, Aziz. So good morning, everybody. I'm Chris Orton, so I'm Head of Business Development for the Security Research Platform and SaIL Databank at Swansea University. It's really, really good to see that some of the data that SaIL holds being used so well by the AIM consortia on some of the posters out in the foyer, so please feel free to have a look through that as well. I also hold roles in other UK infrastructure programs, HDR UK, and also Population Research UK as well. So I'm incredibly interested in how all of the artifacts that are being created by the AIM consortia could be reused and reproduced moving forwards for the greater good in multiple long-term condition research. So again, just to reiterate, the research support facility, which underpins the AIM programme, has these 5 themes that are working together to try and make sure that we can support the research that is being undertaken as best as possible. I live up in the top left in reproducible infrastructure, but I work incredibly closely with every single one of the other themes to make sure that it is not an isolated and siloed venture. So the data journey itself, even with glasses on, I'm struggling to read this. So the real first step with the data journey for the AIM consortium, and I believe anybody trying to attempt to use UK-wide data for research studies, is where do you actually begin? The UK has a wealth of data which can be used, both health, administrative and other, and there are multiple providers, hundreds of them essentially across the UK. And however, MLTC by nature needs data linkages. It needs multiple data sets and it needs them to be well characterized for you to be able to do longitudinal optimal research on multiple long-term conditions. The challenge we have in the UK is that whilst we have all of this data, the standardization of it is not yet there. So whilst there are some data which are very complementary to each other, it's very difficult to do something where you can compare just with the data you're provided, England with Wales, with Scotland, with Northern Ireland, and therefore hope to actually get a systematic answer from that data. You've also got the complexity of the general journey we spoke about earlier, and Kirsty touched on this, building on the fact that you have to analyze data before you've accessed it in knowing actually if that data fits the needs of your actual research, particularly when you're deploying artificial intelligence, machine learning. Is the data going to be able to cope with the model I'm throwing at it? Are you actually going to be able to get answers which benefit patients and the public essentially from the data that you're analyzing? There are multiple data access pathways available for the data, both at a system level, but also at a governance level. Data use permutations. Do the data providers actually look favorably at AI algorithms being used on their data and then interpreting that? You know, AI and machine learning is essentially human-led, thankfully. And so in a number of ways, it means that the researchers are still in control of what they're finding on a risk prediction basis for a lot of the multiple long-term condition research we're seeing. But it also is difficult compared to more traditional statistical methods and epidemiology potentially when you're trying to iterate and essentially run over large quantities of data where you need a significant population to get a good answer on what's happening to patients suffering from multiple long-term conditions and identifying what might happen to populations who might get them at some point during their lifetime. In discussion with the AIM consortia and also with the funders, therefore, as well as just the general what data is available, where is it? One thing that we have worked towards is trying to set up some sort of brochure and embed in the funding process. Here are some options where you could start with data that is representative of the UK population that would allow you to do multiple long-term condition research. And that document as a horizon scan is going to be launched as part of this conference and available for sort of the next round of funding, and obviously can also be used to just help any research in general moving forwards. Once you've actually got access to data, how do you make the most of it? And obviously, as I mentioned before, each of the consortia are using maybe 6, 7, 8 different data sets to ensure that their journey is UK representative in most cases. The curation aspect of data is hugely significant. Data is never provided to you completely research ready in a way that you'd be able to just throw an algorithm at it and completely understand what the output is for, particularly for multiple long-term conditions, because of the linkage and the cohort definitions, the coding mapping, which is something which is time and time again a question. How do you map clinical coding, drug coding, and generally interpret conditions in the data that is available in the UK? The standardization of this work is very much a work in progress. This is happening across the AIM consortia. It's happening at Health Data Research UK. It's helping it, you know, trying to essentially come to an agreed position on what conditions look like in data sets in ready EHR data. But also data itself at this scale for AI and machine learning deployment needs optimal infrastructure to be able to actually run it. Now, traditionally, where data is sent out to people, then obviously, you know, you've got to scale up from just using a laptop. In the advent of trusted research environments as well, you need to be able to optimize. Are you okay with a standard set of infrastructure provided you and the compute available there? Or do you actually need to burst out to something incredibly large scale in terms of computational need to actually run a significant set of AI algorithms? There are lots of options available. We mentioned the GPU rollout that SaIL have led as part of this, working in collaboration with the AIM consortia who have used our data in Wales. But we want to make sure that that is a globally available methodology for how this works moving forwards. Just to finish on this, it's really important, and this is basically what Lucy alluded to earlier, as well as Aldo, the so what next, and also how do you translate a lot of the work that the AIM consortia are doing. It's incredibly important that we work with the funders and data providers to provide guidance to prospective and existing consortia about where the next step is to develop MLTC research. We as a group, and particularly myself and Mon, I think moving forward in our themes, want to promote the consortia publications, not just allow them to be a standalone paper, but be able to be reused, actually embed the algorithms and the learning and the cleaning that has been done by the consortia to make sure that the next round of MLTC research is even better than the ones that are being done now. And there are some fantastic examples of that. We want to publish options for computational setups, which can be broadly used across any infrastructure. And really, what I think needs to happen moving forwards is there needs to be the continuation of providing end-to-end support mechanisms for research consortia so that we can all benefit from the understanding about how to use large-scale complex data in this area.